it's been very interesting in the triggers department, and lessons and a lot of things coming up. And I realized yesterday that it wasn't just me. It wasn't only lessons for me. So I figured I owed it to all of you to put myself out there and let you know you're not alone. And whatever is coming up for you, whether it's old or new, things that are resurfacing, things that you thought you had dealt with. I had been speaking with my Lama concerning the 3 stages of compassion, and I'm Buddhist, and he was telling us about all the stages, where the first stage is thought, simply thinking for the other individual. I hope that you have a better day, and I hope that things get better for you. So it's just the first stage is the thought form, right? I was journaling, and I had written down 4 pages of aha moment after aha moment, which is for another video, and had a conversation with myself concerning the teachings of compassion. And when I was crossing the road, coming back from Starbucks, walking home, sorry guys, it's been a tough day. When I was walking back home, there was 2 children on a bike between 10, 11 years old, I would say. And there was a person not paying attention. We only crossed 1 road for me to get home from Starbucks. And the man on the van hit one of the children. He just lightly tapped his bicycle. He slammed on the brakes right at that moment where he hit the kid's bike. And he was right in front of me. We were all crossing together, and I just lost it. There was no compassionate action whatsoever towards the man that was driving this vehicle that slammed on the brakes. I started going off. I just, what do you think that you're doing? You need to get off your phone. He was on his phone, texting, or he was doing something on his phone. He was looking down. What are you doing? You need to get off your phone. You just hit a child, and what's going to happen now? Should you want me to call the police? You want me to deal with this? And now, I didn't exactly curse at him. I didn't call him, verbally abuse him, or call him names. However, I did lose it. There was no focusing on the children, the two friends that were crossing. There was no sane moment in that reaction whatsoever. I completely, 100% reacted. There was no analysis of what was going on, no analytical thought. So as I am leaving this scene, I tell the man that no phone call is worth hitting a child, and to think about that for the rest of the day, to think about that as he goes forward. 5 minutes later, I'm calm as I continue walking home, and I realize the teachings. I realize what I had just journaled about not 2-3 hours later on the steps of compassion for self and for others. Compassionate action, compassionate thought, compassionate words. And I just said, oh my gosh, I just lost it. And at that exact moment is where you shift and you go from doubting what you just did, completely 100% doubting, and you go into, what did I just do? And guess what happens next? You shame yourself. You start doubting what just happened, and you step into, oh, I'm bad. Oh, I don't know how to not react to a certain situation, right? Like that was the best that I could do. All of a sudden, you're not you're not good enough. Whether it's been from your teachings or whether it's from everything you've learned and your growth and and everything. Even though I didn't curse, I still it started creeping up the feeling of this is perhaps wrong. I could have just stayed focused on the children and not on the man. And the children did thank me. They walked away and they say, "Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for standing up for us." But still, so as that feeling, and I'm sure this happens to you in every type of situation, as that feeling of doubt stepped up and of shaming myself, I caught it it wasn't even present for 5 seconds before I was able to catch it. And I told myself, no. What happened, happened. Yes, I reacted. I did the best I could at that moment because I did lose it. I can't go back and change it. I can't go back and say, I wish I would have done this or I wish I would have done that. I did what I did. I'm not going to start shaming myself for it. I'm not going to second guess myself for it. I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to take this lesson, just as I'm sure the gentleman will be taking this lesson, because perhaps he needed a rough talking to in order to not hit someone else. Perhaps there could have been something worse that happened. And my reaction, as horrible as it may seem, could have prevented something else. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about what his reaction would be. I was reacting, but there was no doubting of, is he going to pull a gun on me, which doesn't really happen in this area. But, there was no thought process of, I'm scared, or should I speak up, or should I say something to him? It was purely standing up for the children of what had just happened. Could it have been worse? Yes. I didn't beat him. I didn't call 911. I didn't call him names. Could I have practiced more enlightened action? Yes, I could have. But I did what was necessary, and I'm not going to take it back in any way. And that's something that is important, I believe, for all of us as we go forward. We shame ourselves very quickly in the decisions that we have made without realizing it. We immediately go into shoulda, coulda, woulda, but didn't, right? And that's exactly what I wanted to shift away from. And as I was walking home, I realized that I had just had my lesson in exactly the same thing that I was journaling about not 2-3 hours later. And I started smiling, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what happened to me. Yes, well, let's see how compassionate you are. Let's see how well you did. Let's go ahead and practice being in the moment. And yes, you're going to speak up. You're not going to allow that throat chakra blockage where there's nothing you can do and you feel intimidated and you close down. But at the same time, how far can you take it, right? Because there's 2 levels to that. You can definitely go overboard. So I realized I had a lesson on the 3: compassionate action, compassionate speech, and compassionate thought. So, look at, I don't know, it's a lot going on. After I arrived home, not 5 minutes later after the incident, I sat down with the incident. I went over what happened, and I said, okay, this is what happened, and now I'm going to visualize the man that was in the car that tapped that child. He tapped his bicycle. And I'm going to visualize the children, and I'm going to send light to the situation. I'm going to send light to him. I'm going to send light to the children. I'm going to send light to the whole entire corner where we were at. And I'm going to let him know it's okay. So I asked his higher self and the children permission to receive the transmission. I visualized everything. I visualized him, and I sent him love. I sent the situation love, and I said, it's okay. It's okay. Because I didn't also want frazzled, where he'd be so scared that something worse would happen. But I did kind of feel that this was a lesson that was necessary, right? Because the lesson was there for both of us. He just happened to be the person that was there at that moment for my lesson and for his lesson. And, I said, I thanked myself. Thank you for being in this moment where you're able to send him light, not 5 minutes after this happened, where it could have been your children, where, these children were thanking you. And I hope you do better. I hope you make better decisions to the man. As I was sending him light and smiling and just shifting the whole situation, shifting everything that was happening, because that was important for me. So what I wanted to tell you was that, how does this correlate to you in everything that happens, whether you react to something or whether you don't react to something? What actions are you shaming yourself for? Whether it was because you did act in a certain way, or whether it was because you didn't act at all. So stepping into understanding of self, stepping into understanding of the situation, analyzing that there's no way to change it. It already happened. I accept my steps. I accept the past. I don't know and can't predict the future. Some of us are seers. However, there's always things that shift. And I accept and thank the lesson for both of us. I thanked him and I thanked myself. And then I went into, are there any gaps for growth? And then you take them willingly and happily. What growth do I need to take from that situation where I was showing compassionate, the 3 compassions, and compassionate action, compassionate speech, and compassionate thought, or whether I wasn't? What growth can I take from it? Again, without shaming ourselves. That doesn't mean, don't feel bad, about something awful that you believe it's awful you did. Okay, you believe it's awful. Go through all the steps. Go through sending light to the situation. Go through the steps of accepting that there's no way to change it. And look at gaps for growth. Where can you take that growth willingly and happily? Because that's the other part. If you don't take it willingly and happily, then what are we doing? How is this shifting any situation? You will react in whichever stage you are, and that's okay. Some people, if they would have been in this situation, they could have reacted by hitting the individual. They could have reacted by calling names. So I don't know that. There's 1,000 different people with 1,000 different reactions in 1,000 different situations that are very close to that, right? So we just have to take it. Yes, we can anticipate and we can think, this person's going through so much, and they probably had a sick child and that's why they were on their phone, or they were going to an emergency. It doesn't matter. Yes, we have compassion for the situation. It happened regardless of what it was. But we also need to have wisdom in that compassionate action, because it could have been an emergency, we're just going to ignore the situation and block ourselves in the sense of saying, I should have said something, but he's probably just having a bad day, so I'm just going to stew and just keep it inside me. We can't do that either, right? There has to be that balance. There has to be that right way for you in the stage that you are in your development and in your life. And I think that that's very key to understand here in this situation. The lesson that this taught me, and that you will see if you go through all these steps in moments where you have lost it, as one of my friends, Amanda, was saying yesterday, where she just lost it on her husband, and she's like, what just happened? This was like me 20 years ago. Is being able to mirror back and show you where your triggers are. I was able to see, after stepping away from the situation and after seeing that this was, a lesson, as everything is, I realized what my lingering triggers are. The gentleman that was driving triggered two things. He triggered harm of children and absent drivers. Those are two things that I get very triggered by when someone is putting themselves and putting other people in dangers on the road. Because if you decide out of your own free will to put yourself in danger and be on your phone, okay, that's you. But what about the mom that has a brand new, a newborn in the car? Or what about the grandma? What about someone's brother, someone's sister, someone's, mother, someone's aunt? So I said, okay, I've been working for so long with the trigger of harm to children. It's still there. I don't anticipate when there's going to be an end to that specific trigger. However, I realized it. This was a trigger. A child right in front of me came in harm's way, and I lost it. Now, I have seen harm come to children in my presence, and I haven't reacted in that way. I haven't lost it. So I don't necessarily think that I have not made any progress. This was one very real situation. But I understand that I may be like 70-30, 30% not compassionate action, thought, and speech, and the other 70 is where I've really worked and stepped into being present in the moment, being quiet with self, and sending light and wishing love to flourish in the situation and saying it's going to be okay, and really shifting the situation without reacting. So also looking at your percentage with the same situation, with the same trigger, with the same scenario. What percentage are you reacting, and what percentage are you stepping into presence and compassionate action, thought, and speech? That might be really helpful for you to really gauge where you are, and if it's important for you to keep working on it, and not delude yourself that, oh, everything's fine, I worked through that trigger. Oh, I just did that a month ago. It's not coming up again. I'm good. I don't need to think about it. And then the universe just decides to say, okay, let's see where you're at. Let's see what's going on. We're going to sprinkle this one. We're going to sprinkle that one. We're going to sprinkle that one. Here you go. Have fun for the next week. And that's what's been happening with me and with others, that we're getting triggered and we're getting tested, and we're receiving these lesson after lesson after lesson. And have you really learned your lesson? And then another sprinkle of, are you sure, pretty sure you've learned your lesson? Time after time after time. So that's it. That's what I wanted to speak about, the importance of those actions and not shaming ourselves. And yes, once you've calmed down, go ahead and do your steps and see where you are at without being so hard on yourself. And I hope it aids you in whatever way it's meant to.